Yes.
Yeah, we should probably start.
Okay, hey, welcome to... Fuck. God damn it.
It's not easy work starting an episode, is it?
I have to fucking say the words, and that's hard, so.
Okay, alright. 3, 2, 1. Hey, what's up, babe? Fuck.
This is so difficult, like...
I'm trying to...
I'm keeping all of this in.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Long Days Journey into Film podcast. I'm Andy, here with my co-host, Russ.
Hi, I'm Russ. I'm
And our special guest...
Liam
also a
here.
returning guest. Oh, sorry. Fuck. Say that again, please.
It's been on the podcast several times.
I've been on a handful of times.
We fucking started it like almost a year ago. We started this fucking podcast, and
Really?
you were
A year ago.
It was in June, right? Or was it in July?
Shoot, I don't even know. Summer, I think.
Yeah, and yeah, you were on for the
Shining.
I almost said Possession, yeah, but Shining. You were on for the Shining episode in October.
This was the perfect episode for me.
Yeah, I've been also wanting to talk about the films of Gaspar Noé, which is our subject for the next several weeks, at least.
The next several weeks.
Yeah, we'll be... I'm not sure if last episode... I really don't remember, because we've tried to do several episodes since last episode, which was the Cure episode, where we had Sing on. Which, actually, check that episode out, because it didn't get a lot of plays, and Sing came on. I don't remember if we said we would be doing this. I don't really remember, because that was back in, like, I want to say March. But yeah, we've been planning this episode for a while, and or these episodes, because we're going to break it into parts. But yeah, we're going to be talking about every Gaspar Noé film, so
including Vortex.
Including Vortex, because both me and Leon, we've both seen it. Andy, you haven't seen it yet, but hopefully you'll be able to see it before we get to that episode.
We'll get to it, because we'll make the episode scheduled for a good couple weeks in the future, so...
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to be starting with I Stand Alone and a Carne, and also Irreversible, which is first two films and also a short film from Gaspar Noé. And then we'll be going on to Enter the Void and Love next week, and also then Climax, Lux Eterna, and Vortex. So that should be fun. I have a lot of thoughts on all these films, so they should be pretty good episodes. I don't think any of these films are like not much to say about, or like, oh yeah, that one just kind of fucking sucks. Like, there's always something to say about a Gaspar Noé film.
No, I like every single one of his movies.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
And this is my first time. This is my introduction to Gaspar
Noé. You finally
Noé.
broke your Gaspar Noé cherry.
Finally, yeah.
It was...
Lost your virginity, and then...
I didn't know what I was getting into. Technically, I didn't ask for it, but I loved it, baby.
Good.
Anyways, we're starting off with Irreversible, yeah?
That's a bad way to transition.
I mean, yeah.
Anyway.
At least every time we have a transition, we don't have gunshots and vine booms like I Stand Alone does. Am I right, guys?
Those are the best transitions.
Yeah, I have some... We'll get
so
to
ahead
that.
Of its time.
That's the one thing. We're actually going to be fucking cheeky motherfuckers over here, and start with Irreversible, since... Like, we want to go chronologically through his films, but even though I Stand Alone is his first film, we're starting with Irreversible because it's backwards, and we're meta, okay, guys? We're meta, alright?
And Irreversible was my fucking first film, so it just makes sense to start off there.
Yeah, so, we will be talking about Carne and I Stand Alone, but
stay tuned for those.
Irreversible. Yes.
How do you want to be violated by Gaspar Noé?
I would love to.
Let's see.
Wait, what?
Leave it in the comments.
I want on camera, maybe.
What?
What? What did you say?
Did you say I'm hammered?
I am. So Irreversible. About time, damn. I've been wanting to talk about this movie since we fucking started the podcast.
I know, you've been...
Me too.
So
I'm being honest.
And you've been pushing that for no way. And honestly, I was kind of hesitant, because, like, and the reputation of Irreversible it has quite the reputation. So I was kind of, I was always interested, but
it's one of those.
I'm
Like,
a bit of a procrastinator, so it kind of takes me too long to get to these films I want to see. But I mean, I'm overall glad it was pushed upon me because I do not regret watching these films because there is a lot to say about Gaspar Noé and his entire filmography. So I'm very excited to explore the rest of it.
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, Irreversible is one of those films that's like one of the most like controversial like type of movies. Like it's
Okay,
up
but
there.
like
I would
Irreversible
put
is
it-
definitely like a controversial movie, but I
Oh,
feel like it's
but-
a lot less controversial now than it was when it came out.
oh yeah, for sure. I
Because
mean,
like I feel like it's like a cult classic now. Whereas when it came out, nobody'd seen anything like that before. Or
yeah, I
like
mean,
it's like if you watch the famous video, like the Cannes 2002 reactions to the movie,
fuck yeah. I was just
bunch
watching
of
that last night.
Oh shit! I
bunch,
need to
but
check that out.
Yeah, it's like up there. You know, like it's definitely up there with like shit like Salo and a Serbian film. Like even though it's
yeah,
maybe not as on that same level, it's definitely in that same category of like infamous. Like if it's one of those where it's like if you bring up disturbing movies, it's like in that top 10, you know. It's and
And
also
it's
being like it's also a French new French extremity film. So which I'm not really sure what fits within that genre. Like is it just super
I,
violent French
does it just
films?
have to be French and extreme?
Yeah,
I
like is
looked
that
into
it?
Like
And like be like post 1995, like
I don't know,
I'm
like
not
when
really
the
sure.
time frame is.
Yeah, because like
I don't know if you can still make a film like now and it be classified as new French extremity. Like, doesn't was I don't
2010s.
know.
I mean, not 2010s. Generally, I think the like peak of the genre, from what I googled, was like the late 90s into the early 2000s. But
Early
generally, I
2000s, I
think
think. Like
oh
Martyrs
yeah,
and
for
shit.
sure. Yeah,
Martyrs was like
Murder and
2000,
Martyrs,
I
Irreversible. I mean,
2007. I don't know. I could be
yeah.
Which
wrong.
Blade Runner?
I mean, I saw people calling like Raw and Titan like
Yeah,
new
That's
French
what.
so
Yeah, I was
listen,
gonna bring up like Titan and shit.
Yeah.
Like that. I don't know. That could. It's
Yeah, like
debatable.
but also like New French Extremity isn't so much like it's not like a film movement. Like you could say it is, but is it really like people were trying to make like really disturbing movies, or was it just that that's the type of films that were coming out around that time, and it kind of got a subgenre? Like something like say like I wouldn't put it up there with like say like if you said like like the Dogma '95 movement. That's like it's something that people are like participating in. Like I'm not sure if Gaspar Noé
Nah,
made a
it's not
movie
the
thinking
same.
I'm going to make a New French Extremity film. It's more of just kind of like a title to put on these types of
I think it's a
fucked up French
Yeah,
movies.
it's
reflection
just like
of
any new
the
wave. Like
thoughts.
any new wave movement. Like they didn't like want. They just just kind of made movies that just fell under
Here's how I feel
the new
about it.
wave
It
of.
came out around the same time, right? So generally, I think it's the thoughts and expressions and feelings of these directors, and they're just finally. It just so happens to be that they're pouring it out all at the same time, probably due to like cultural events and how they grew up and stuff. I'm probably digging way too deep into this, but
So this is my fourth or fifth watch. Um, I do count the uh reversible cut in quotes
there's a
because I have
reversal.
seen that too. Yeah, I have seen the version. I own the Indicator Blu-ray. And I
Okay,
have seen both cuts of the film, and I'll talk about the other cut after we're done with the main discussion. I have some thoughts on it. It's still a good movie. It's just not
I mean, I think
quite
it
as good.
the
Um,
discussion a bit.
but yeah, I've seen this film at least four times.
Oh,
So, what about you guys?
I've seen the movie twice. I haven't seen the new reversible cut, but I just know that like I mean it's an interesting like I'll just watch it like as a fan of the movie. I'm curious, but I know it's not going to hit as hard as the original cut because like part of what makes the movie so emotionally impactful is the choice to make it in reverse.
rewatch or two. I don't know. I don't really rewatch a lot as much as I used to. It's probably a habit I should get back into. But I mean, was my first time. I'll probably, I don't know.
I mean,
But
this is definitely not like people would say like, "Oh, I'm never watching this movie again." And I was just ever since I first saw it, I was just been so hyped to rewatch it.
It's definitely a film that I could completely understand someone watching it and being like, either I love this and I never want to see it again, or I hate this and I never want to see it again. Um, The thing is, like, yeah, I've always had like this even though it is a hard film to watch, even like literally like it's hard to watch at times. Like it hurts your eyes.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, I've always been drawn to it. Like I've always kind of wanted to rewatch it because I feel like there's a lot to get out of this film. What the fuck is that noise?
Well, it might be me. I might be in the fucking of my fan.
Right. It's yeah, I feel like there's really a lot to delve into with this film.
Yeah,
So
lots of layers, like an onion, you know. So
like Shrek.
And
No,
there,
so what's this film about?
this
French people,
film,
that
because
French be
it's
like,
so,
mug it.
oh my
This
god,
movie is average French afternoon.
I said alone is definitely like every French person after a certain age.
So what's this film about?
The first time I saw Irreversible, I was absolutely blown away.
nah. I mean, like the film starts with a very shaky camera, almost like it threw me off at first because I was like, is this film really just gonna fucking be like kind of shaky cam to film?
It's
I
kind of
mean,
like a
the first,
rewinding. Like
almost
I
the
feel like the
first
The
scene.
ending
camera
credits.
movements are very similar to like what the film is
Yes, it's
like the
all
film
very
structure, you know.
intentional.
I mean, the film starts with ending credits, which is kind of epic.
Yeah, and Vortex actually did that,
Which threw me
and
off
he
because I
did.
was like looking at the fucking how much time I had left in the film, and I'm like 6 minutes. I mean, no, it was like 11 minutes. Okay, so I have like 5 minutes of the film left. No, I had like a complete 11 minutes because I was like thrown off by the beginning credits. I was like, oh, the opening credits, not the fucking actual credits.
Yeah, but he
Yeah,
just dumped all the credits, and that makes it like when the film ends, it ends, you know.
Watching the wrong film at first, to be honest. I mean, not wrong film, but like wrong cut. I'm like, is this fucking movie supposed to be in reverse? But I'm like, wait a minute, it's Gaspar Noé.
No, really,
But
it's in
Wait.
reverse.
So how much did you know about this film? Like going into
I
it?
knew about the fire extinguisher. I I, I just knew about the fire extinguisher,
An
and
absolutely classic scene,
Fuck yeah.
I didn't know.
The entire rectum club scene is so good.
dude.
Which we
I was
haven't described the film right. What the fuck is the film about?
it's
The
just
movie.
I feel like it's well, it is a revenge movie, but it's probably the most interesting spin on a revenge movie I've probably seen, like, ever.
It's a
Because
very
like revenge
cautious.
movies are probably like my favorite genre, or like I
Yeah,
don't know if it's like subgenre.
yeah.
Uh,
It's one of the most interesting takes on this type of
yeah, on the
story.
yeah,
I mean,
right,
revenge films do be hitting though.
Yeah, I mean,
right, and
there's like
this is definitely the most realistic revenge film because like
I don't.
he doesn't like get. I mean, he doesn't get his revenge.
You were
I mean,
comparing it.
revenge in this movie is like it's the driving force of the movie, but it's not like front and center.
Is like the knife that cuts through the central theme of the film. I don't know. Like that was probably a bit too fucking dramatic and meta, but like the revenge is used as a tool to get to the end of the film, which is a
which is the
very
beginning,
yeah, it's the beginning, and
which I think
it's
is a brilliant end and a brilliant beginning. Like
it's
having seen the film in both cuts, it's it's funny because it makes for a really good opening and it makes for a really good ending. Like, or it makes for a really good ending and it makes for a really good beginning. Like, it's funny how this entire film is structured because even though it does play out in reverse, when I first heard that, I wasn't sure if it's like actually like super experimental. I remember like some of the first stuff I heard about it was like it's like really disturbing, and it's done in reverse. And so I thought like, wait, is it actually done in like reverse? Like it's reversed footage. But the thing about it is like it's just minimal editing. Like there is
it's like
editing in it, but it's like there's like how many sequences are in this film? There's like just
okay,
like
the
big
way
chunks of
what you're
scenes because it's done in
describing,
one take,
I
which
feel
is
like
it's a
something
the
that's
editing is actually pretty impressive because it's like made to look like a simulated one take sequence because there's technically no cuts in the movie.
yeah,
it's
exactly. Which is like nobody talks about it in this film. Like people talk about it all the time now. That's like more mainstream films, like say something like I don't know 1917 or something, doing like a like a one take, like oh the entire film's a one take. But something like this where it just uses one takes or like long takes in
it's about
like a
one
smaller way like this, I think that's really impressive. Especially like some of the scenes towards it always gets confusing talking about this film, but like towards the end of the film, which is actually like story wise earlier in it, kind of like the scene on the train when they're on the subway, like that entire part's just like one take, and like I feel like that's not appreciated enough because it's not like showing off, you know?
Yeah.
One take vignettes or vignettes. I don't know how you fucking say the word, but the film is very much comprised of one take vignettes that tell a story in reverse.
But even the one take vignettes are kind of like linked together by like the camera
Yeah, they're
just
not separated.
flying
They're all,
around into the next scene. It doesn't like
and it
cut
all
to the
looks like
next one.
one take, but the cuts are um what's the fucking word I'm looking for? The cuts are made through unique transitions. So it feels like one take, but it's not.
Right, it's very simulated. Like it wasn't filmed in one take. Like some movies are actually like filming in one take, but like it's trying to achieve that like illusion. Like 1917, which wasn't filmed in one take either.
I think it's a
Yeah.
very unique take on the one take. Fucking take, Jesus. But you know what I mean.
But
Yeah.
anyway, what I was saying was, every sequence is that they cut between is done like this. So, like you can't like if there was like a lot of editing, like if it was like fucking I don't know, what's a movie with like a fuck ton of editing? Bohemian Rhapsody, which I haven't seen, but like
What do you
everyone
mean
has a
Shit
fuck ton.
City?
Like
You don't need to see that film to know about its editing
yeah, like,
reputation.
if it's something
Just
like that, like it would be a lot harder to make a film like this where it can play out in reverse because it wouldn't feel nearly as natural if every scene was starting over like that.
The
So I just think
crowd
it's
during.
what
I was just gonna say the crowd during the Bohemian Rhapsody like final concert looks like
that's dog
looks like
shit,
straight
yeah.
out of Wii Sports.
it opens with a scene that's disconnected but still connected to the rest of the film. I don't want to exactly hit on those notes yet because they
Well,
connect.
let's just hit on the one note, right? Because this is going to be important. The one, like the kind of classic line from the movie, is uttered in the first scene, and that
Which
is
is
"Time destroys everything.
Time destroys all things. Oh yeah.
Time destroys all things." Well, if you want to get technical,
and it's a central theme throughout these three films. I don't know if it is for the rest, but I feel like it kind of just spells out from what I know of Into the Void and Vortex. It feels like it spells out No Way's career as a whole.
I feel like there's a lot of ideas and themes here that
Get
are
spread out.
throughout. Yeah, same for really any Noé film that I've seen, which is all of them. Like a lot of his films touch on similar themes in different ways, and also like especially in his earlier films, it's kind of the building blocks for his later films.
oh yeah, there's definitely like there's one theme in particular that I've seen like literally all his movies, but I don't know if I should bring that up now. Or,
Yeah, I have a lot of. I'm still like building my thoughts.
yeah,
On kind of his like filmography as a whole. Like this type of thing. I want to discuss more just like what he's going for, different ideas and themes. But like I kind of want to do that later because at this point I haven't rewatched all of his films yet.
right,
I've only
exactly. We
rewatched
should like do that at
Carne
the end.
this episode. So within the next couple of weeks I will be rewatching the rest of them. So yeah, maybe in like the Enter the Void or like Vortex episode we'll kind of talk more about his filmography as a whole.
During the opening of Irreversible, we're introduced to two unnamed individuals.
Please don't
Contemplate.
read the Wikipedia fucking plot description.
What about unnamed? They're unnamed. I don't think the
It's the
Well,
butcher
we know who the
and
character is.
some.
the butcher, but we don't know who the butcher.
Okay, so this
Well,
is so stupid, but every time I watch this movie, I always think, is that the Tenya or is that like the rapist dude in the beginning scene talking to the
Oh
butcher?
shit, dude!
It's not. It's not. I always think it is, but it's not because the Tenya has a fucked
They don't
up
look
nose.
the same.
Yeah, it's not the same dude, but it's someone different. But I always think, wait, is that him?
That'd be funny. I mean, not funny, but
Yeah, no, I always thought that because it's like what they're talking about. I always thought that he was like talking. Anyway, that's not. That's
might-
kind of doesn't make any sense.
now that I'm thinking about it, the two guys in the opening are kind of a reflection of where the two actual main characters will end up.
Yeah,
Because they will end up in
pretty
that
much.
position because of actions. They're taking revenge on someone. And we cut from these two fucking people we don't know straight into this chaotic. It's not initially chaotic.
Well, in
It's
the aftermath of something. that happened.
The aftermath of
Which
an event that resulted into.
which is such an interesting way to start the film with it, because it's like it really like deflates it. Like it's this weird like way where it like deflates like thematically what you'd be getting out of it, but it also builds like this tension because it's kind of like, all right, what happened? What's this fucked up thing that's like just happened before? Then it's like, oh fuck, we're going into it. You know, we're going into back before and seeing whatever just happened. Then before that, it's like, all right, what the fuck happened to Alex? Then it's like, now we're seeing that. It's like this really weird like tension and kind of building your expectations in reverse. A normal
Well,
later, but
I feel like while you watch the movie, there's like two like different stages you go through. Like at first, like the first half of the movie before the rape scene, which I think is like the dividing point between like the first half, the second half.
Definitely.
It's just like you said, like tension, right? Because you don't know what's going on, because this is going backwards, so you don't know what the fuck's going on. So it's just like it's a really tense situation. But then after the rape scene, when there's basically like no like any shock, there's not any shocking scenes after that. Basically, you're just left like with like it's pretty fucking sad knowing like you're just watching these characters knowing what they're like, what awaits them, right? So it's just like melancholy after that, because you're just watching them like essentially just kind of enjoying themselves, going towards a fate that we know is going to happen, but they don't know it's going to happen. And that's why it's so powerful that it's like backwards, because and you don't get that feeling when it's like in the right order. That's why it's so unique.
It's very disorienting.
That's actually my first note. So I'm gonna be honest. I was kind of high as fuck when I rewatched this. Yeah. Also, same for I Stand Alone. I'm gonna rewatch all these high because I've seen them all sober before. So anyway, just my first two notes is just blinking light and disorienting.
I mean, I think that describes the entire film until of course.
If someone asked me describe Irreversible in 2 words, I just pull that out. So
I mean, it is kind of difficult to talk about this film because it's in reverse order, but we're going to try our best.
Because the thing about this film is like it's not, I must say, not plot heavy, but like
I mean, the plot is incredibly simplistic, but it's and when you're trying to make a realistic movie, it's sometimes better to have a simplistic plot.
Yeah, that's like another thing I really love about Gaspar Noé's films is how he incorporates like kind of an extreme realism, you know, into something that's like so detached from reality, you know, in some of his films, like you know, kind of like the entire chaotic structure of this, you know, or something like Enter the Void, you know, where
it's super realistic, like not just like in general. I'm saying like the interactions between the characters and stuff. Like I love his choice to use improv and not like actually write out dialogue, and instead the script is just like what happens, and he gives his actors like creative liberty and like what to say. I think that's like incredible because the interactions, everything, just all that, like that aspect of it is like scarily accurate. Like it's just like this is how people talk, you know.
Yeah, that's another thing. Is like Gaspar Noé really like his films are very like loose in like what I feel like what he starts out with. Like I'm not that sure about like his entire like creative process, but like I know this was like started that he wanted to make the film that he ended up later making as Love with like Vincent Cassel and Cassel, is that it? And Monica Bellucci. Like he wanted to like make the film Love with these two actors, but then he ended up doing stuff, changing stuff, and then it eventually became Irreversible. And I know like he kind of like sold it to the studio or whatever with like, you know, big parts of the film that aren't like the Rectum club scene, the in the like gay BDSM nightclub called the Rectum. Like that whole sequence and also the rape scene, like those were like very like I know he said in interviews it's like he sold it to the studio as that being like a way smaller part of the film than it actually is, which I find kind of funny.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do to get your film made, and I respect him for that decision. I was gonna say it's amazing that I didn't know this film was improv so much. So it's very interesting that he put so much faith into these actors to carry the film for him, and these actors do a wonderful job. Even though, like I would say the majority of the actors in the film, except for the leads, are unknown to at least American audiences.
I'm pretty sure like the actor of the Butcher, which we'll talk more about when we get to I Stand Alone, because his character shows up in this.
Definitely seemed familiar. I don't know what.
I
Yeah, I've
think
definitely seen him in
I think
other
he's just
stuff.
known for Noé's movies. I mean, I don't know.
I've
He
seen him in
made
something else. Let me look real quick. What's his name? It's Philippi
Look,
Nahan.
which,
Yeah,
by
he
the
was in
way,
look
La
him
Haine
up.
actually with Vincent Castle in La Haine. Interesting. I don't
he
remember him in that, but he was also in High Tension. He plays like the killer in that.
apparently
Which I
I've never
forgot.
seen anything he's been in, but he just looks familiar. I don't know. Maybe he looks familiar to another actor. Anyways, rest in peace to the homie. He's dead now. He died from COVID.
Oh, did he?
Did? What the fuck?
What? I did not know that. Oh yeah, he died in 2020. Holy fuck, that's messed up.
Damn, I didn't
He
know
was
that.
81. What a legend. He was battling an illness which was aggravated by COVID-19. I just wanted to clear that up. You can continue.
The actor of the Tenya, Joe Prestia. It looks like he's in some other like maybe like semi-known French films, but yeah, it's like mostly like this cast is like fucking like unknown, which is the same for a lot of films from Noé. He uses a lot of completely unknown actors, and especially in like like say something like Climax, where it's like
You
most of the
know,
people in that aren't
They
even
were all
actors.
dancers, actually. They
Yeah,
weren't even
exactly.
actors. Yeah.
Yeah.
which is
Um.
very interesting because, this I've only seen 3 films, but it what's the word? It's very impressive to see that he's kind of you get the I get the impression that he's very good at his fucking job, which is directing, if he can get these performances out of unknown actors or people who don't even act. That means he knows what he's doing, you know?
And I feel like I feel like it helps not like getting people that aren't actors because they won't like think like an actor, so they won't have to like try to like give a performance, but rather just act like themselves. So I think it like
He knows how to direct his people.
I don't know, maybe I'm just BSing. I'm not an actor, so I don't know how actors think.
Yeah, they're like really the main actors in this. Like I would say like
They fucking
there's
kill
not
it.
really like a main character, is there?
I mean, Marcus and Pierre, I guess.
Like yeah, like Alex is I want to say like only in the last half, but like
I don't know. I feel like
yeah, like none of them are really the main
I
character.
don't
It
know. There's
almost
no like this isn't a
it
film
feels
with like heroes and like
no,
this
oh
this
definitely
film
not.
just kind of
No.
goes against every like narrative or not like every like film
standard.
every rule of film essentially because there's no heroes or
Yeah.
villains. There's no like even like the plot structure isn't like your typical like third act, first act, second act, third act.
Yeah. And even
So
like the main characters, like you feel kind of detached from it being like, oh, there's a main character because it's not that type of thing. Um, and I know people like complain. There's a lot of people have a lot of criticisms of Noé. One being like he doesn't flesh out his characters enough.
well, I feel like his
Watch.
movies are less about the plot and the characters, more about the experience of it. But I feel like in Irreversible, like for example, like in Climax, like well, I'm not going to go too far into it, but like that's definitely like an experience movie where the
Yeah.
characters aren't like super fleshed out. But in something like Irreversible, dude, I'd say that they are fleshed out. I feel like they're great characters. He could have gone further, but I think he did a good job. Like,
Yeah. I was
um,
gonna say like I definitely feel like there's something to explore with the characters of Marcus and what is it? What is it?
Pierre, I think.
Pierre, that's it, not it. There's some like so there's a lot of parallels in this film. If you watch it, there's a lot of especially visual parallels, but also there's kind of stuff other like in the dialogue, there's kind of parallels between things that happen. Some of them I really started noticing on my just this last rewatch, in as far as like visual parallels go, is between like the first time you see Marcus, he's being wheeled out of the Rectum Club on a stretcher unconscious. And the first time you see Alex, she's also on a stretcher unconscious, and it's a similar type of shot. Um,
Hmm.
there's also some other ones like it's like kind of a it's like a call back or a call forward. Like when they're walking and they're talking and in the walking to the subway, right? It's later in the film which is earlier in the timeline when before everything happens, they're just having a good time. And Marcus, I forget what he does, but he like jokingly like he's holding a bottle and he does it like moves it like does a motion like he's gonna like smash it on Pierre's head kind of as a joke, like oh I'm gonna hit you with it. And then it's like
Hmm.
later or like earlier in the film, he does smash a bottle over someone's head. Just
Yeah,
like little
that's
things like that.
interesting.
There's a lot of those.
I noticed just one, like the only one I noticed, like just in like the cinematics, just so the like in the opening scene where the camera's like kind of swirling over the police siren,
Yeah.
and then the final scene where it's over the sprinkler. I thought they were pretty similar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
I
also
was
that's
like, I thought
something
that was
that
interesting. Just,
yeah, that's something that Noe does a lot throughout his filmography, especially later on, like in Enter the Void. There's a lot of that, um, and I think it's interesting how his style kind of carries and grows throughout his filmography. Starting with something like, say, I Stand Alone, which is very much, we'll get to that, but it has a lot of, at least in my opinion, French New Wave kind of influence in his editing and style.
oh
Uh,
yeah, for sure.
which kind of like a Godard type, which I don't, to be honest,
It's
I don't
definitely
know
very good art with like the
Godard.
text
I've only
popping
seen,
up and
yeah,
like
and the just very experimental editing.
right,
The way that
yeah,
goes from like that to Irreversible, and some of that carries over, and then some of that goes to Enter the Void, and then Enter the Void to Love Climax. And I love the way his style grows throughout his filmography. It doesn't just like what if it was like, oh, he has a gimmick. All of his movies play out in reverse. Like I don't feel like this film has a gimmick. Like I feel like the way it's really baked into the core of this film, it being like this. And
I feel
anyway,
like for a
what I was
lot
saying was there's a lot of
of
parallels, a lot of visual parallels in Enter the Void. And also I was going to say parallel between there's some parallels, like a lot of visual ones, but also some between kind of the characters of like the Tenya and like Marcus. Like the one thing I noticed was let's see, like when Marcus first finds out about Alex, and then they go on the whole like revenge thing. Throughout that whole sequence, like first we see him, there's the club scene, or there's the aftermath, the club scene. Then there's before that when they're in like the cab with like the oh,
yeah.
he was like an Asian cab driver, right? But like he's like very racist. Like he like basically like he's calling him like all these names and slurs and all this shit, and even like I don't know why he like stops to like commit a hate crime like mid revenge.
Well, I feel like what the film's trying to denounce, because it's like such an interesting contrast between well, like the end of the movie and the beginning of the movie. Well, like technically it's the other way around, but
Yeah.
and just the difference in
I
like his
mean,
attitude. And I feel like it's the movie's trying to denounce like how like one event can like totally strip you of like it's basically like his like human nature's coming out, and it's like you're back to your kind of like no, that's not.
Like
I was
primal
that's
kind
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what I
yeah.
meant. Like you're back to your like primal instincts, right? It just takes like one thing to like it's like take you off, and then you're just back to your like animal. And even Pierre, who's technically like a voice of reason, Pierre loses it, and then just like he's like fuck it, dude, and he just like smashes. Like he could have stopped, but he doesn't stop. He's just like overtaken with
Yeah, I was gonna say like he's like he even says like at one point he says like you have to stop it with this B movie revenge crap. You're like an animal right now. You're not even human. Like he's saying that type of thing to Marcus because he's so fucking like hyped up, which I think Vincent Cassel does it very well in that whole sequence in particular. Just
oh yeah,
like
he's scary in
like
the
like
movie.
he's just
Yeah,
so intense. He's like
yeah.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's like when Pierre, he is the one like kind of he snaps in a way. Yeah, I mean, he fucking beats the guy's head in with a
Well,
fire
he's just kind of
extinguisher.
like in a
Um,
trance. I feel
and
like,
like,
and he just kind of
but also it's like interesting how that part is done because it's like you can kind of tell like his thought process almost. Like first he's just like doing it almost out of like self defense for Marcus, because he's getting what he's like about to get raped for some reason. I'm not sure. That was
yeah,
kind of
like they
odd.
just break his arm and then just like
And he's just like, I'm gonna fuck you. It's like what?
that
Um,
feels kind of weird. Like
yeah, that
I don't
was
know if that would actually happen.
yeah. It's like I'm on a billion tangents right now off of what I was trying to
I was saying
say.
like what if you went to a gay club and got your arm broken?
Yeah, it's like people say it's like this movie is homophobic because of it's
I
like
feel
oh
like
this
I would
harsh
understand
environment.
like gay people thinking like that because of like because it's like they like
Yeah, there's a
if
couple things. Like first it's just like it's a gay club, and that's like that makes it bad. But I feel like it's more of the like BDSM angle of it. It's like it's kind of like a dungeon. It's like this hellish like very and like it's more of like the BDSM like not that BDSM is bad, but it's like it's kind of like the sadism aspect of it. But I was watching it was called like the Irreversible Odyssey, I think. It was like a documentary like sometime after like but it was like a more recent. It was kind of a documentary, like 45-minute thing, just talking about like different interviews, different stuff about Irreversible. And Noé said like he wanted that like climax to take place in somewhere where it's all men. Like it's somewhere where it's just all men in that spot. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And also
I
that
feel like
mixed
it
with
makes
like the
sense.
this like sadism angle and like how seedy it is. I
Yeah,
don't really feel like it's homophobic to say like, oh, it's just bad because it's like they're violent, or it's like I don't think that's what it's
I definitely
saying.
wouldn't. I wouldn't consider it homophobic. I thought it was a great creative choice.
Yeah, and like
Um,
Noé shows up jerking off, so that's
yeah,
cool.
there was a gay club in Bohemian Rhapsody too.
That's homophobic.
They did some BDSM shit in there.
I feel like a lot of those responses are very reactionary, and I mean, for a lot of the movie, they're very reactionary. They just see it as what it presents, but they never look into why it is that way. And that goes for a lot of things. I mean, currently, I mean, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but to relate it to something, the new Kendrick Lamar album is kind of getting. He says some things on one of the songs, and it's getting criticized for it, but
Oh, is that
they're
because he says
fucking missing
faggot?
the point. Yeah, yeah, but they're fucking
Hmm.
missing the point because the song is a fucking trans rights song. Basically, it's pro
Well, people
trans.
are calling it transphobic.
Well, people are
It's not.
fucking stupid.
Yeah, that's
So
what I'm.
Like,
yeah, you know what? People will watch this
Yeah,
movie and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, Gaspar Noé likes homophobia and rape
yeah,
and
and
racism because there's that in the movie."
I've defended Irreversible with my life. Like ever since I watched it, like last year, I've just dealt with people
I
just
think
because, like, I did say at the beginning that this movie is less controversial now. I feel like people have just accepted it than like it used to be. But like, I still dealt with a lot of people like in film communities, just like saying it's gratuitous and yeah, I didn't pronounce just saying it's like unnecessary, it's
Yeah.
pointless, it's disgusting.
that's
I'm
kind
a
of
rape
that's
apologist
the
for
point.
liking it. I was like, dude, like what?
Well,
I
it's
You
like
mean,
know?
that's
people will watch something like this, something like so like visceral, such like visceral experience, like this movie is, which I'm not
that's
trying
the
to
Yeah.
sound
point.
pretentious, but it's like something like this where it's so much about the experience. I mean, the fucking camera movements is going to set like this tone and mood of something that's trying to disturb you and shock you in a very interesting way, because
I don't really fucking
it's not
care
just
about
like, oh,
that.
look at the like gore, or like look at this. It does it in a way that's like smart. It uses the music, uses that fucking I know that it's like if you watch this in a theater, it's like the sound is like some kind of frequency that's like what they use in like riot control. It's like actually makes you nauseous. And even the actual music and the cinematography, the editing, it's all like done in a very purposeful way. Um to be in a certain way. So I can see why someone would watch this and be like, this is horrible and disgusting and I feel sick watching this. But it's like maybe don't
Yeah, but I'm
appreciate
not.
the artistry
Some
of it.
people think that
Like,
if you like the movie, you like pro rape, and I feel like that's stupid because
that is stupid. Like, I guess people think it's like, oh, it's, I guess, like fetishizing it because there's like a long rape scene, but it's like,
well,
even
it's I
like,
mean it's hard to watch. I don't think.
I feel like this movie, like the rape scene, is done in a very, it's not, it's so like, it done in such a like minimalist, stripped down, disturbing way that there's really no way you could say, like I know no way, this is another thing he said in like interviews, like, if it was like if the camera movement was all like edited or like all like all over the place and the camera was like moving and it was all like jacked and the music was blaring during the scene, it would be kind of like sensationalizing it, right? Like he said, like you would see it from like from the rapist's view, right? But it's like done in such a way that it's like you really see it like from Alex's, Monica Bellucci's character's perspective, and like it's really like kind of
You see it for what it
you're like
is.
trapped there. You're trapped there for 10 minutes watching this, and it does it in a way that's not. It's not like in any way like
Celebrating
I,
the.
how could you in any way say this movie is like pro rape? Like if I think we're too stuck up on the or too stuck on this particular point, because I feel like not a lot of people are actually saying that. I feel like like the majority of irreversible
No,
haters
I don't think it's
aren't
that's
saying that
because it's
particular
just
thing.
not intelligent to say that. I mean,
Yeah,
you can
that's
like definitely like
yeah.
it's completely your right to dislike it, but that argument is just completely like no,
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
doesn't make any sense. But of course, like I mean, it's not for everybody. Like that.
To say the scene is sensationalizing it is all wrong because he puts it very bluntly, very realistic. It's very graphic. It's just how it would actually be, and it's not some fucking super like fucking sensationalized version of rape that
Yeah,
you
it's not
often see.
sugarcoated. It's just like he just presents it as it is because that's just how it is. If this kind of thing happens in real life, it'll look like that, you know. But I think what's interesting is he did make his actors choreograph the scene, so he didn't really have any involvement in the rape
Yeah.
scene whatsoever.
Yeah, I know that I know that like Monica Bellucci had like complete control over like how long the scene went, which
Yeah,
is another thing
right.
that's it's very much done in a way that's respectful for like this type of thing. It's not just like complete like exploitation. It's not even though it's done in
No,
a very I feel like people write Noé off as an edgelord, which I think is
it definitely
completely
kind of rose
unfair.
like I kind of cringe every time like I don't like that like term like edgelord, especially for someone like Noé because I feel like he's so much more than just like it's just such a surface level term.
Yeah, because it's like he's definitely he's definitely a provocateur.
Yeah,
Um,
he likes to push boundaries,
he
but you
likes to,
know,
he like I know he says like when his movies don't have people walking out during the screenings, he's like disappointed. It's like, yeah, he didn't make a big enough impact. He didn't, it wasn't. I mean, for fuck's sake, he's talked about like, how his favorite films are like Solo, and like he saw it at a very young age, and like he definitely knows how to use shock and disturbing content within his films, and also use very realism in a way that mixes with that in a really great way. That's the really extremely realistic parts of Noé films. It like complements the shocking parts so well. Like kind of like how some scenes like the rape scene, it almost feels like too real in a way. Um,
yeah, and that's
Also
why it's
just
so
like,
hard to watch.
yeah, and why it really like succeeds in what it's doing. But it's not just like, oh, this movie has like a disturbing rape scene that's saying, oh, rape's bad. Like, I
Well,
feel
I
like
don't think
people
that's the
take.
message. Like people are like even then like I've heard the argument that it's like you don't need a 10-minute rape scene to like kind of say rape is bad, right? And I don't think like that's necessarily the point of the film either.
No, that's not what he's
It's
saying. That's
not
not
like
the statement he's making.
yeah, exactly. And I think for what he is trying, the statement that he is trying to make, it's kind of necessary.
One thing I did bring up earlier, was how I thought there's kind of a parallel between character of the Tenya and Marcus, which the Tenya is, the rapist.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting how like when both characters are like, I don't know, they kind of go into like, what is it, like attack mode almost, like when Marcus is all riled up, he's fucking, he's just he's like, like verbally like attacking, either whether it's like the prostitutes they're talking to, or the fucking uh the cab driver, or the people in the club. He's just like going off at all these people, and all he's like, he starts with like attacking them like through whatever he can like kind of use um against them. Like if you notice, like when he's calling people slurs and all this shit, it's kind of the same thing like the Tenya does when he first starts assaulting Alex. He's like calling her like, oh, you're a high society pig or whatever, and all this different stuff he's saying. It almost feels similar in a way, and there's also these weird parallels. Kind of, I'm not sure if you were here, Andy. You might have been pissing. There's these parallels between. Do you notice any of like the visual parallels between things that happen earlier in the film and later in the film? Because there's definitely a lot of that, and also in dialogue. Did anyone else notice it
But
between the two characters, or am I just really like thinking too hard about this?
point something out. Like use
Because
an example.
Well, in the dialogue, there's also the scene where Marcus and Alex are laying in bed and that one, and then she like recounts a dream she had where she was in a red tunnel,
and he's
right?
like, "Oh,
And
my
that's
arm is numb."
and it like broke in half. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he says like, and then if you want to go even deeper, he says something about his arm, which gets broken later. I don't know, dude. I just that's reaching, but like,
No, that's not reaching at all. I was actually going to point out that's one
yeah,
of the
like
things with the
I don't
film.
know. I feel like he would
Um,
be clever enough to do that.
Wait, so you don't think that that was intentional?
I mean, I don't know if it was
Okay, so you don't
like
think
you said it
wait,
was improv. I feel like
you don't think that it was intentional that there's a parallel between beginning and the ending, or where he like touches his arm that got fucking snaps in half later and say, "Oh, my arm is numb," and then she says, "Oh, I was in a tunnel," and then she talks about having dreams, which is the only
I
thing where you
definitely
can
think
see
the
the
tunnel
future,
thing
which
is
is
like
already set.
intentional.
I'm pretty sure that was intentional. Yeah, even though the dialogue is improvised, it's not like they just made it up on the
I'm
spot.
gonna
Yeah,
argue
yeah.
the entire film is kind of about parallels now that I think about because it's irreversible. You can play it forward and back. I mean, it's parallel that way.
Exactly.
Well,
Well,
actually, oh shit!
I
I
just
just
okay.
realized something right now.
Should I? All right. So should I go into my epiphany that I had at the end of this film?
Wait,
Which,
wait. Before you do that, do you remember like the scene where she talks about like a book she was
Yeah.
reading and she recounts
Yeah.
the plot?
Which is like
And-
basically like describes the whole film, which is my only criticism with this film.
Well, she says like the future is like you have like a dream, and then like the future you can like see the future through like how do you say it? Like dreams, right?
Okay, wait. Let me just look for this note real quick because I know exactly what you're talking about. Don't even say it.
And then
Hold on.
she recounts a dream she had, which is basically like the future, the red tunnel. I just realized like the parallel between the book and shit. That's pretty.
Interesting.
I never put like two and two together when I was watching the movie, and then just realized now that she was just
Yeah,
like
it's
like a premonition.
Oh, I know. Here's a quote. All right, so she says, it says that something. I was reading a book, and which is kind of just like a. It's also something that is used in Enter the Void, which is someone talking about this philosophical book that they read, which basically describes the whole movie. Which is something. It's like a minor issue I have that sometimes the dialogue doesn't completely work in Noé films. It's a little bit too on the nose, but I can kind of argue it more, or argue more for it in Enter the Void, since that movie's. It's like. I don't want to get too much into it, but like, it's very trippy. You know, it's a lot of drugs. It makes more sense in the context of that film.
Well, that was definitely less like expositionary than Enter the Void, because Enter the Void is like really just like the book is the entire story. This was just kind of like a nudge to like
Yeah, but she said
this dream she has.
She says, it says that the future is already written. It's all there. The proof lies in
And then you can
premonitionary
see
dreams.
it through yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. All right. I'm gonna just go off on this little tangent. That okay, so the second to last or like shot or like I guess scene in the film that you see is right after you find out that Alex is pregnant, which is after that whole sequence with her and Marcus in bed and like that whole part. It's after that you see Alex like laying on a bed under a poster of 2001, right?
Yeah.
Which Noé loves to reference his favorite films through posters. Which I think this, just like this, that shot is
It's fantastic.
so important for what this film is. Because first off, okay, so I'm gonna just go off on a little tangent here, and spoilers for 2001. So the 2001 baby, right, which is on the poster, in 2001. That whole thing symbolized like a baby, or not, the baby was like a person experiencing all of time at once, right? That's kind of like the agreed upon kind of interpretation of the ending, but like that's what most people made sense of it, right?
I guess.
Yeah, like
It's a hard
fucking
film to analyze.
yeah,
Go
and
on.
it's like it's like a baby that's kind of like symbolizing life, and it's like Alex is like pregnant with a baby, which I guess dies because it's like or something, because I'm not sure she dies or it's like this like weird thing with like Gaspar Noé movies and dead babies.
That's the thing. That's one of the themes I wanted to bring up. Like
it's almost like it's almost like the whole film.
It's not
like,
really abortion though. Like it's
antinatalism, but also
that's
just, also like Alex. It's almost like she's having a dream, which is it's later mentioned that it's like the future's already written. And it's premonitionary dreams. And also, like, if you watch Vortex, Dario Argento's character in that, he talks about how cinema is a dream. And it's like life is like a dream inside of a dream. And it's like all these different things. It's like Noé is like he's like showing these different things as an experience, kind of like a dream. Because that's what you can do with a movie, right? And it's like just like that followed with like the text saying time destroys all things. And the whole thing of like dead babies and Noé's thing and like the way time, I don't know, I just thought it was kind of like really like a kind of profound moment in the movie.
I got you. I agree. I didn't.
Oh yeah, that's a great interpretation.
That didn't even make sense. I thought that made so much more sense in my head.
I was gonna if I can, I actually had an epiphany while you were talking
Yep.
about the going back to the parallels. Marcus and Alex end up on a fucking stretcher by the end of the film. Both of them do.
Yeah.
And Marcus ended up there because of rage. Alex didn't do a damn thing to deserve her rape, yet she ended up there. And it's kind of like one side is the expression of, you know, I don't want to say like, because Alex definitely didn't deserve what happened to her, but she did nothing, but that's going to happen in life. I'm trying to like think of like the right way to connect these two, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, it's like that happened, the whole rape happened because of the Tenya, right? Basically, like it wasn't her fault, it was the Tenya's fault.
Yeah,
Um, which it's
she was
almost like
completely innocent.
it's almost like it happened just because he was like, because it's like I'm not sure if like Tenya is supposed to be like gay or not, because he like hangs out in like a gay club, but
I mean, bisexual is a
and
thing.
yeah,
But
so
he,
this is like perfect like bisexual representation, maybe. It's almost like the Tenya gets mad at her because she's like dressed, she's like dressed up nice, and she's
Well, it's just
like
the
there
contrast between like high society and like, well,
exactly,
she's
which
not
is
like
like,
really high society, but like,
but it's like
you
that's
know,
why that's why I don't. He said
well,
I
that's
don't
just
know.
what he
I just
says,
look
but I
at
think he's just kind of, you
yeah,
know,
but exactly like that's what he just goes to something that he can like I don't know, kind of like
yeah, he's just trying to find something he can just like demean her
which
about, you
is
know.
which is exactly what Marcus is doing as soon as he's pissed off. He goes straight to like slurs with like directly to like whatever he can use against the people
Yeah, and I
that he's
think
like
it's
pissed
just
off about,
trying to, yeah,
which
and
is
I
like
think
this like
it's
primal. I'm like,
I just think what Noe's trying to say here is that like in the end, when it comes to this, where everyone's the same, right? So Marcus isn't like he's not different from the Tenya
it's like he's not any better than the Tenya.
because like we're all like the Tenya just acted on upon his animal, like his you know
I
his
don't know
like
if I
temptations, right? And he just
exactly
like
go that
goes
way.
and rapes her, but in the end, Marcus, when he's put in a situation like that, he really doesn't act any different from
And
someone like
Pierre
the
too,
Tenya, you know.
which is also what I was trying to say earlier, but I got fucking
Right, and
off
Pierre
track.
just loses it, like
Yeah, it's like when Pierre's like bashing. It's funny because I was actually saying
he
this
can't like
earlier.
stop it.
When he like yeah, like when he starts first he hits the guy, and he's down, he's like laying there, which the effect on that is so great. Um, of the head being beaten, it's such a
Realistic
visceral,
fucking
like
scene.
just it like doesn't shy away at all. But it's not like just like oh, it's a cool gore kill. It's so well
It's
done.
actually
It's just
really sad because like the entire movie, I mean, not the entire movie because it happens at the beginning, but like you still see how like Pierre is like trying to be the voice of reason for the entire movie, just trying to
yeah,
get him to stop, get him on the right path. But in the end, he just kind of, I mean, he's gonna, he gets like sent to prison
yeah.
in the finals. He gets taken away by the cops. So, I mean, he just gets like kind of dragged into this, and then he kind of just like gets pushed over the edge and just does this thing that he.
But like it
I
almost,
mean,
but it
it's
start
actually pretty sad, you know.
yeah, and well, one thing I was going to say about the beginning or the ending, when they're there, uh, like when he's Mark's being taken into the stretcher and Pierre is being hauled off to prison or whatever. Someone is like yelling at him and taunting him and saying stuff, but they're saying stuff about Alex. Um, I forget. He says something like, "Oh, you're gonna get fucked in prison like Alex did," or something like that.
So
Or
I didn't catch that.
something. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just like. Well, actually, I watched this on the Indicator
Well, I
Blu-ray.
don't know if they said her name. They
So
said
I'm not
like
sure.
your wife, but they probably just knew there was
Like,
like a rape
oh,
happened.
okay. So maybe this is just one of those things where I don't understand the nuance of the dialogue because I don't speak French, which is super fucking annoying. So I watch a fuck ton of foreign films, and like it's just a different translation of the subtitles. But in the version I watched, um, the subtitles said like, you're gonna get fucked like Alex. Like that's what it said. So I was thinking, wait, was that like the Tenya like taunting him? Like was that like like I guess he wouldn't know her name, but like I don't know. I was just wondering, like was that like the Tenya saying that? Because like the Tenya
I
doesn't
don't
die. Like the
know
guy who gets
because
his head beat in isn't even the
I'm not.
right
I was
guy.
confused who that
Which
was because they just set up like they were clearly not part of like the club because they kept just saying like homophobic slurs and shit. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably just some like bystanders.
Yeah.
I thought they were a part of the club. Actually, I don't know.
No, because they just no.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the person who gets his head beat in, that's not even the right guy. Like that's another thing of the plot. It's like they don't even end up like getting like a proper revenge. Which is funny. The guy who does get his head beat in, doesn't he kind of look like a cross between like Sean Penn and like Dolph Lundgren?
Pierre
No.
No, the dude,
Letienne.
the victim of the fire extinguisher.
Oh, I don't remember his face, to be honest. I remember. I mean, everything happened so fast in that fucking scene. I just
It
remember
does look
Letienne.
like I can see the Sean Penn in it.
Yeah, I just have a quote when Marcus is in the cab. He's like, "Drive faster, or I'll fuck your ass." That's a weird thing to say. That's not very.
He fucking just
Imagine the
smashes
cab
it.
driver just like slows down, just like slams on the brakes.
It's like, ooh, yeah.
Take you up on that.
Also, another little piece of dialogue. It'd be a lot cooler if you fisted me.
Oh yeah, I
Or
saw
just like,
that.
or the dude like in the club that's like, "You want to suck my big cock?" in English. Suck my big.
I was going to type that in the
I
fucking
love that part. I
Discord.
love that whole rectum club
Yeah,
sequence
we're
is
just like
so
going
good.
around asking
It's-
for directions and
it
just
starts
trying to
as-
get him to
well,
fuck them. Like it's
and
What
first
guy
it's just
did
like
fucking Lucky?
I was kind of talking about earlier the way it kind of builds tension, but it's like when it cuts from like, oh, they're being hauled off to just like it's interesting how they do it. It's like it just starts like it's not really in one particular like it's not following the characters. It's just somewhere in the club, and it's like the camera's swirling and you see that the music starts and then it's just like you start to see people and there's like groaning and screaming and like
yeah, it's
it's so
so
like hellish
unsettling.
and so disturbing. But also such a like nauseating sequence. But like the more times I see it, the more
It's
I
so
just I
claustrophobic
love it.
too.
It's
Like
so good. Yeah, and
it's like such a small space with so many people. And like
yeah, it's just the atmosphere, the lighting. That's another
yeah,
thing I want to point out. The lighting between that's kind of a um interesting parallel. It's like the same type of red lighting in both the club and the tunnel in which Alex is raped. So it's like
right.
that
Yeah,
red
Oh,
lighting.
this is actually an
yeah.
interesting observation.
One thing we didn't really touch on was the whole party which was actually one of my favorite sequences because it's probably one of the calmer scenes. I would say probably the train scene's calmer, but like just the general vibe of the party scene is kind of it's a bit chaotic, but at the same time, when it's focused on Alex, it's calmer. But I guess that's like to show the difference between Marcus and how he presents himself and Alex. To kind of, you know, I mean, Alex is not Alex. Marcus is on the fucking cocaine, right?
Yeah,
But I mean, I guess that's also a parallel that I didn't pick up on before.
it is on coke. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. That's like both because it's like the Tenya does coke too. Actually,
Damn, does he?
yeah, he
I
does
mean, his
coke in
Yeah,
like the middle of the rape.
oh yeah. Oh fuck.
It makes sense thematically why there would be parallels between the two characters. Um, like you said, like where the story goes with like where Mark's, kind of
Oh
just
man,
loses control of himself and goes into this like violent
there is a pregnant
spiral.
woman at the party too,
Yeah,
which is interesting to think about in retrospect because Alex knew she was pregnant, but I mean, Marcus doesn't know yet. She's pregnant, and then she has the whole conversation with the pregnant woman, which is kind of almost foreshadowing in a way.
right. And at the time where she does, we don't know that she's pregnant. Just another like when you like when as the movie progresses, things that happened before just hit like so much harder.
I think it'll be a very rewarding rewatch.
Oh yeah, and it definitely was a rewarding rewatch.
yeah. Every rewatch I've had of it, I've liked it a bit more.
Yeah.
You discovered something new about it, which is fantastic when you run across it in film.
Yeah, one thing I was gonna say, I really love in the party scene, the lighting when let's see, I think it's like Alex and Marcus are like talking, and it's just the lighting being like it's like projected onto him or something. It's like I'm not sure what's off, but just I love the way that scene's just the lighting and colors in it. Which the entire film is like very well shot. Like the entire thing is like like I said before, it's such purposeful cinematography. You know, like how every sequence is done in like what feels like one long take, and you know, it's like calm when it needs to be, like the camera movements, and like chaotic and sickening when it, you know, also when that needs to be. Um, it's like a really it's like communicating like kind of like the pain and trauma of the characters through the audio and visuals, of course, in a very interesting way. I didn't really mention the score, did I?
We briefly touched on it. The score is fantastic. I really enjoyed the soundtrack as well.
Yeah,
I
I was
mean, I
gonna
was
say
watching occasional
like
scenes.
I love the music. I mean, I love the music in like a lot of Noé's films. He was very I was gonna say interesting taste, but like there's very it's not like his personal Spotify playlist. It's like he's very always very memorable music in his films, and yeah, especially in the club scene or the Rectum Club scene. Even though it's like very off-putting music, like very what's the
Abrasive?
word? Racist? What?
Abrasive.
No, it's very abrasive, very disorienting, kind of you know, it goes
Sure.
with the mood of the scene. It's not like very it's not, it doesn't seem like something you just want to like put on to listen to, but I've so many times found myself just listening to it like this is a fucking bang. Like it's
It
such a
is
good
kind of.
score. Also I was gonna mention in the opening credits, like after the end credits, technically, when it's like it's like I think it's just like flashing the names, right? It's like the
Yeah,
different names. It has like a 2001 vibe to the score. Like it
kind
smells
of.
like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
doom,
yeah. It was
doom.
familiar. I was like, I can't put my finger on what this is from, but
I mean, obviously, Noe is a huge fan of
like the booms.
2001.
Yeah,
Or The Shining almost.
I think there's kind of a connection there, or maybe I'm just super overthinking it. So, what are like some what are some like negatives you have towards the film? I mean, I said like the only thing was I thought some of the dialogue was a bit cheesy. Like, but that's more of a thing, a Noe thing, just in general. Like, I feel like some of his dialogue can be a bit weak in parts, when other parts it isn't.
I get that. I
Uh,
get that. For
but
me, some of the more, what's the word I'm looking for? Some of the more shocking, that's what I'm looking for, can be a bit, I don't know, self-indulgent a little. I don't mind them. I don't know. Something about them I need to grow on. I don't hate them,
yeah, I think
but
for this being like your first Noe film, um, I could see what you mean, but like after you see all of his films, we'll have to check back in and see how you feel about that, because it's
I
very
don't,
much
yeah,
a
I
core
don't,
part of his style to be as very
I'm definitely not writing them off. I don't really like to write off directors or movies after one watch, especially if I think I have something more to say about it.
yeah. But
What about you?
like I was gonna say, like he it's very much like sensory. I'm not sure if like sensory filmmaking is the right word, but it's like sensory overload. You know, his films are very much like a sensory overload. So like when it is something like, I mean, all his films are very dark in nature. Like none of his films, even Love, I mean, it's still a dark film. Like all his films like deal with very dark subject matter. So I feel like it really works. Uh, some of the more like, you know, extreme moments in his films. I feel like it really works. Um, what's up, Chief Chad? I'm not sure if you're being recorded or not. Bruh,
Pop in.
homie, what's your thoughts on Irreversible?
Chat film. Chat film. So it's my top 10, and yeah, it's great. Like, it's
Hell
funny how
yeah.
he improvised the whole thing. He improvised it.
What's your favorite scene?
My favorite scene, it's actually the opening. Like the opening with all the cheeky cams and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. My I gotta say the Rectum Club scene. It's just so
The
brutal and well
light extinguisher,
executed.
light
It's
extinguisher scene. My head got smashed. I
yeah,
love it.
it's yeah. What about you, Liam? What would you say? And Andy?
favorite scene. God, probably like I'd say the most. I mean, I. How do I look if I say the rape scene, right? Because that's definitely no. Here,
Top 10 most favorable cinema moments.
Would be probably, I
top
really
one.
enjoyed the party scene, to be honest. I just vibed with the
Yeah,
party
like I
scene.
just like the whole movie because I just love how like different the first like half is to the second half. Just like the contrast. Because after the rape scene, just how much of like a different movie it is. and I just love the dialogue and just like it just becomes like a hangout movie in a sense.
Yeah, but it's also really like like I said, with all the like parallels between like the stuff that happens earlier, but later in the story timeline, but earlier in the film. I feel like all of that, like kind of all the parallels and similarities throughout the opening and closing, it kind of adds like a kind of like like a fate to the whole thing. Like the whole thing is like, like she says, like it's all everything's already destined to happen, right? I don't know. I feel like it's kind of worse that it's like just kind of chill. They're just like vibing, before all the shit goes down. Like it kind of makes it like darker in a way. Rather than like where if you watch it as the straight cut or the reversible cut of the movie, it's still a really good film. It's definitely still works and like all the technical elements are there that makes it a great rape revenge film. But like I just feel like it's missing that extra layer at that point. But it still works as a film. Like it's still a great movie. Like if it didn't have any of the, it is a little bit awkward some of the editing because of the way, the film plays out in like big chunks, and like the camera will like swirl off into the, into the, I don't know, like some area where it can kind of transition back. That does make the editing a bit like awkward a little bit when it's going forward. Um, but like in general, it's still a great film. It's not like it completely relies on like a gimmick. The gimmick of it playing out reverse. Yeah. So what would we rate this out of 10?
8, straight 8, baby.
I'd give it a 9. It's up there. I mean, it's one of my favorite films. I'll probably give it a 10 eventually.
10 out of 10 for me. It's
Nice.
it's one of my favorites. Like probably like in my top like 10, 20.
Fuck yeah.
It's up there.
What about you, Chad?
10.
Nice. Fuck yeah.
Let's go.
It's in my top 10. It's in my top 10. So.
It's definitely one of the best rape revenge films I've seen. It's probably like the best.
It's probably the best revenge movie ever made.
Yeah, so we will be continuing these discussions of every Gaspar Noé film and up to Vortex because that's his latest film.
Is Vortex out on streamings and stuff?
No, not yet, but both me and Liam have seen it so far, so that's pretty awesome. I have a lot of thoughts on it, and it kind of like, what's the right word? Recontextualized the way I see Noé films.
Yeah,
like
it's
it kind
quite
of
different.
Yeah, because there's like elements in it that I didn't think about being in Noé films that you kind of have to watch Vortex to realize they're even there, which is interesting. I feel like there's so much consistency in his filmography, even though he makes a lot of weird, different types of films.
Some of his most sensible film. Yeah,
it's definitely his most grounded. Like it's the most grounded in like kind of not too nothing too extreme happening. It's kind of more down to earth. It's not like Enter the Void. It's not super trippy. It's not like it's really good, but it's very Noé. Like it's really at the core of like what Noé is doing as a filmmaker, just done in a different fashion. How do we end it? Thanks for listening, and listen to the part where we talk about fucking Enter the Void because that's gonna be awesome. And maybe do some edibles and watch it first.
Make sure to watch on edibles. Yeah,
Gaspar Noé forever.
The GOAT Gaspar Noé.